Eminem reveals why he finally performed at the Oscars 17 years later. Eminem rarely does interviews lately, and a conversation about last night's surprise performance of Lose Yourself at the Academy Awards 17 years after the song won him an Oscar, and also and it's from the movie 8 Mile, would seem rarer still. The performance in many ways was a belated do-over. He decided not to attend the ceremony in 2003, leaving his collaborator Louis Resto to accept the award from Barbra Streisand no less in his place. Last night's appearance, which immediately followed a montage celebrating the sound editing and mixing award, which footage from 8 Mile got a rapturous reaction from many screen stars in the crowd. Some of the relatively younger ones were singing along, and everyone from Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio to Billie English and Anthony Ramos standing and applauding at the end. Eminem, whose real name is Marshall Mathers, has made a habit of surprises in recent years. His last two albums, last month's Music to Be Murdered By and 2018's Kamikaze, were both surprise releases, and last night's appearance was a tightly kept secret. Sources say the Dolby Theater was put on lockdown during rehearsals, and that if news leaked to the media, he had the option to cancel. But it all came without a hitch, and Eminem got on the phone with Variety this afternoon to talk about how it came together, and why he decided not to attend the ceremony in 2003, and what he was actually doing that night 17 years ago. Last night's performance certainly was a surprise. How did it all come together, and why this year? He says, I kind of figured maybe, since I didn't get a chance to do it at that time, maybe it would be cool. Back then I never even thought about that I had the chance to win it, and we had just performed Lose Yourself on the Grammys at the Roots a couple weeks before the Oscars, so we didn't think it was a good idea. And also back at that time, the younger me didn't really feel like a show that would understand then. But then, when I found out I won, that's crazy. That, to me, shows how authentic and real that award is. When you don't show up and you still win, that makes it very real. He was asked, was he disappointed that he missed it? He says, it would have been amazing to see you accept an Oscar from Barbra Streisand. He says, look, if you had another shot, another opportunity, thanks for having me at the Academy. Sorry it took 18 years almost to get here. So he was asked, what did he end up doing that night? He says, Louis Resto, my keyboard player who produces records with me, went up and accepted it, and I know people were probably like, who the fuck is this guy? So he called me, and I remember the phone kept ringing. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm trying to sleep. He says, but I answered, and he's like, hey man, you won. He says, I did? He's like, shit. Cool, but that was a different time, and I was in a different place in my own life. At the time, some reports said you didn't perform because the Oscars wanted you to do a censored version of the song. He says, but did they make an offer? He says, do you know who they were talking about having to perform it? And then somebody asked, is there anyone you think that would have been good? And he says, maybe 50 who you mentored and whose major label debut had just come out at the time. Back to last night, did you enjoy it? As for how it came together, I heard that 8 Mile was already in the montage, and the Oscars just happened to ask, and you said yes. It was a pretty elaborate band with several musicians and a string of selection. How did you rehearse it? How was it so important to keep it a secret? Some people wondered if you got another film in the pipeline. Do you have any interest in doing more acting? Did you enjoy doing 8 Mile? He said, he never really said whether he did, but I'm pretty sure he did. You just put out an album 3 weeks ago, but can you say what you got coming next? Any new artists you're particularly interested with? He says, okay, last question. You've gone after 45 really hard in your lyrics and freestyles and even got interviewed by the Secret Service. Why do you think other major artists aren't doing the same? And it says dead silence, and then Public wraps up.